Hi guys, Mrs. Rast here, and tonight's lecture is over Egyptian achievements. Please make sure that you use the assigned pages in your social studies notebook to take your notes on. And remember, if you need to restart or go back and look something over, feel free to do so. Your title tonight is Egyptian Achievements. Make sure you draw your line for your notes, and please write today's date. The idea that we're reading for is that the Egyptians made lasting achievements in not only writing but architecture and art. Now, there are 4 essential questions that I would like you to write on the left side of your notes and answer by either reading about the information or by listening to the presentation. And those questions are, what was the Egyptian writing system called, and about how many symbols did they have? 2, what did they write on? And how is this material a technological advance? Number 3, how did historians crack the code of hieroglyphics? And number 4, how are Egyptians similar to us today in what they wrote about? Okay, so a quick review. Mesopotamian writing was called cuneiform, which means wedge-shaped. Egyptian form of writing was called hieroglyphics, which is their writing system. They used picture symbols to represent sound. So instead of wedge shapes, you have a little bit more of an advance here in terms of what their symbols would have looked like. Still using symbols rather than letters like we used to do today. They had over 600 symbols in the Egyptian language, and not only did they write from left to right like we do, they also wrote right to left to right, up to down, and down to up. So very confusing and took a long time to learn. Now the Egyptians started writing on clay tablets like the Mesopotamians, but they did have an advancement in their technology with the creation of papyrus. Papyrus, you can see right over here on the right side, is a long-lasting paper-like material made from reeds. Our word paper comes from the word papyrus. This is technology even though it is not battery operated or plugged in because it makes their life easier. You can roll up papyrus. You can carry a lot more of the papyrus. It's probably going to last if you drop it, whereas I don't know if a clay tablet is going to do that. Clay tablets are certainly going to be heavier. You can only write on it during a certain time, and it's very unwieldy as far as a material to write on. Now, over time, people stopped using hieroglyphics because it took a lot of time to write with. Egypt eventually becomes conquered by the Romans. The Roman language was Latin, so I'm sure that they preferred their conquered people to use Latin, much more simple than the hieroglyphics. Eventually, people forgot what it said. So when they were looking at the pyramids or artifacts that they found and they saw all these great symbols, they weren't sure what the heck was going on. Well, fast forward to 1799. There are some soldiers in a town or city called Rosetta. They found this huge stone that you can see right here, and on it, it had 3 types of writing. There were hieroglyphics on it, Demotic, and Greek. Now, people were still able and still are able to read Greek, so they were able to decode this lost language, and this stone is called the Rosetta Stone. Now, a couple things here. One, if you've ever seen the language programs on TV called the Rosetta Stone software, offering you ways to learn things like Spanish or German, there is a civilization connection there. That's where they get the name for their company, is from this stone. Secondly, just because they knew how to speak Greek did not mean that this was an overnight decoding and voila, they had everything. It took years and years of time to crack this code. Archaeology does take time, unlike in the movies or Hollywood's version. The Egyptians wrote things that we would think of as similar to us today. They kept track of their government records, taxes. They were probably keeping invoices for pyramid supplies, grains, wheat. They, on the Rosetta Stone, that was basically an advertisement for one of the pharaohs and his accomplishments at that time period, historical records. They wrote medical manuals. The Egyptians were considered to be quite well versed in medical training in the ancient world. They also wrote stories and poems and prayers. And here, folks, is just a little humor. Don't take notes on it. One final thing on Egyptian accomplishments: they built pyramids and temples to honor their gods. You can still see some of them today if you ever get a chance to visit the Temple of Karnak, Abu Simbel, Luxor, to name a few examples. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, you might go to the Luxor Casino. Once again, a connection there. The pyramids we've talked about at this point, and those are once again the last of the ancient wonder worlds. And they were also known as great artists, creating things like sculptures and pottery and paintings and murals for the enjoyment of the dead in the afterlife. That's it, folks. Hope you got what you needed, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.